It's still recording, but I'm gonna edit it,
Yeah, I
obviously.
got you.
Okay. Okay. So here's the deal. Bigfoot Society After Dark, Episode 1. It sounds like you have a pretty solid story. I don't know if you want to. So, are you working for this place anymore? I was
I
trying to
am
think
not.
this. Okay, I was trying to think this through, and I was able to guess what the place is. I don't know if we want to like leave that in the dark, what it is, just
Hmm.
so that like nothing comes back on you. I'm gonna leave this up to you right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not employed there, but
true.
they would definitely know it was me. I was not necessarily shy about talking about certain things while I was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
As I encountered certain things, I was like, did you hear that too?
Do you feel
I,
comfortable talking about it?
I do. I do.
Okay,
If
let's
anything,
do it.
I'll just refer to it as a anonymous Bible museum that exists in Florida.
Okay, you're digging your own grave, but go ahead.
Anonymous museum of religiousness could also not say so.
Okay, let's rock and roll. I'm honestly like very into this because it has a feeling of like this is going to be some amazing like Indiana Jones meets Ghostbusters thing. So,
The great part is that I wasn't expecting that at all to happen when I started working there. So
oh yeah, well it's like who does? You're like, I'm gonna sign up to work for this. What do we call it? Religious museum.
yeah, this religious museum.
This religious museum, but I really am gonna do it because I want to see some ghosties. Like that's just not in your mind, right? At
No,
all.
no, maybe a regular museum, but
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's get to it.
okay. Just going off from the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where do I start the story? So I had started working at this religious museum. We'll go with that.
Hmm.
And my job title was essentially being a tour guide there through the museum area. It's really
Oh,
nice. And I would get to do little projects on the side. We had these large bookcases that would hold different kinds of Bibles and things.
yeah.
And one of my first projects that I was given was to basically spruce them up, make them look nicer.
Spruce them up.
Apparently they had been in the same stage for the past
These
several
Dead Sea
years.
Scrolls are getting a little dusty, Yami. Could you just kind of like
They're not
is that
attracting enough
no?
attention. You got to do
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
So I had to dust them and everything. That was a really fun time.
Oh my god.
So I was given this project and I was new, still really excited to be there. And
Mhm.
I asked, what do I have to work with to spruce up said bookcases? And I was directed to this mysterious closet
Oh man, no way.
where they said, so we have that's basically the closet. We just keep all the leftover things, and um,
Leftover things.
there's boxes of
Ooh.
different artifacts and things that have been donated to us or gifted to us. Um, Most of them we just don't know where they came from unless it's specifically labeled as such. So I was like, oh,
That's some scary, creepy crud, dude.
I wasn't expecting anything weird. In my head, I'm just picturing like books or like paintings. And when I walk into this, it was a very small closet too, which didn't help
Okay.
the feeling. There were boxes indeed, but they were like labeled like instruments, necklaces, fabrics. I was like,
From Bible
okay.
times
From it's
or whatever.
all over the world. These things have been donated from all over the
Whoa.
world, different
Crazy.
cultures. So, and there's even like one that had like dolls, which was
Oh
absolutely
no.
terrifying.
Closet of the Dolls with Yami, right? Oh no.
And in that moment, I was
No.
second guessing my paycheck.
You're like, how much am I getting again? This is not gonna cover it. The years of
But
counseling.
it was me and another girl that at least for the first day we kind of like just began to
Okay.
open boxes and see what is in here, what's going on in
Which
these boxes.
probably be the coolest thing ever, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting paid to do so, so I wasn't
Yeah.
really too nervous. But like as we were pulling stuff out, all I could think of is like, we really don't have any idea where some of these things came from and who gave them to us.
Mm,
That's so
yeah.
weird.
That's crazy.
It's very weird.
Mm-hmm.
So we pulled everything that we wanted to use in the bookcases into the cart, and we were going to roll it out and just set it up. And I remember there were things again like dolls, different instruments, like hand carved things, just really from all over the world, all over.
Mm.
And we were allowed to go to another closet that was locked. That one was locked. And there was like a portion of it that is artifacts that we've archived that are like off
Why
limits.
is it locked?
And they're like, that's off limits because it's archived and they're delicate things and whatnot.
That's no.
That was the only
No.
time I caught like a weird vibe. I'm like,
I refuse to no. There's something else going on there.
I was just like, I feel like we should archive everything, but
Yeah.
why do we have so many things just
Mm-hmm.
stuffed in random closets? It was just very weird. It got me thinking very interesting things, but I did my
Yeah.
job. We set up the bookcases and they looked really nice. Looked really nice. Like
Which is
top
like,
quality and for like top quality work was put into those bookshelves at that
that's
point.
awesome. Good job. You did your job.
Exactly. Do my job. And the next day I came in, super excited to see them. So it was like, I think a few days after I had moved all that stuff in there was when some weird things began to happen. So the first
Mm-mm.
thing that I noticed is that when I was manning the front desk area, I was by myself at that point because everybody else was in another portion of the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a woman's voice whisper behind me my name and said Yami. But it was so audible that it made me turn around and I looked.
Wow. Super creep. In English?
Yeah,
Okay.
it
Interesting.
sounded it was just a woman's voice
Mm-hmm.
and it
Okay.
said my name. So I turned around thinking
Wow.
someone's calling me, maybe one of my bosses, I don't know. The sound does kind of travel in the museum, that area,
Okay.
but there was nobody there. And I was just kind of like, okay, we're going to ignore
Wow.
that and we're going to continue our day. But the thing is that it kind of kept happening sporadically. And then it was like voices that I then knew. Like I would hear in one of my coworkers' voices my name
Oh
being called.
no. So like you started having when Rey had visions in Star Wars and like she hears Obi-Wan and then sorry spoiler for the new Star Wars, but it's past the time, guys. Like that's awesome.
it it was very weird and then it just always happened again when I was on the museum side of the building. Anywhere else,
Hmm.
nothing. Just in the museum side. And I would even I've asked my coworkers, like, hey, did you call me? Did you need something?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's okay. No. I'm like, and I just kept stuffing away those weird moments. Just,
Are these all people that are still currently living or were they you know
oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yes, they are.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Interesting.
I just thought it was very, very weird. And it seemed to, I thought it was only happening to me. So I just kind of kept it because I didn't want to be the new hire that was suddenly talking about ghosts
Mm-hmm.
at a religious museum. I didn't want to have
Yeah.
that label.
That's a way to not be the new hire anymore. Pretty quick. I would
Exactly.
unless they're into that, but you know, who knows?
So I one day I worked up the courage and I talked to one of my coworkers and I asked like, hey,
Oh, awesome.
have you ever had this happen to you? And they like, now that you mention it, I think this happened once or twice, and then there's like been once or
No
twice where I
way.
think there's somebody in the museum, and then there's nobody there, which of course really makes you feel really good when you hear
Yeah.
those things.
It's great to be like I've got it. I'll share a story after this
Mm,
that I can. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're like. I don't know if I want to be like, what's the word? Validate. It's like I kind of wish you had said I don't know what you're talking about.
exactly.
But but now you're like, yes, I know what you're talking about, and you're like, this makes me feel terrible. Yeah, no, I get you.
Part of me is like, I'm not
Yeah.
going crazy. The stress of work is not getting to me. That's good, but then it's also the realization of wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
There maybe is actually something to it, kind of a deal.
Wow.
Not fun. The worst thing that happened, however, was that again, it was shortly after I had finished the bookshelves that I was walking. We have like a back hallway that connects the two parts of the building, the museum and an actual like working area. And I was walking through, and it's a very narrow little tunnel kind of a deal. And then it opens up to a larger hallway.
Mm-hmm.
I was walking, about to clock out for the day, and I was on my phone. I was sending out a message, and I see somebody walk in front of me. So I actually stepped back and I said, "Excuse me, like I'm sorry."
Oh no, there's no one there.
There was nobody there, and the greatest part is like where they were walking in front of me was they
No.
would have walked into a wall. There was nothing there. But as clear as day, I saw somebody pass in front so much that I literally responded because I thought, oh my god, my bad, I almost slammed into you.
Do you think you saw it because you were distracted or because they thought you were distracted? You don't
I
know, right? Like
I
that's
don't
weird.
know. That was the
That's
only
so
time though
weird.
that like I physically saw something and it spooked me out when
Oh
I
my
looked up and
goodness.
realized I'm by myself here. I just did one of those deep breath in,
Mm-hmm.
deep breath
Yep.
out,
Yep.
and continue walking.
Wow.
It was weird, and I was actually talking. I was on the phone texting my boyfriend when it happened, so I reacted to it to him, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is kind of cool." But
Wow. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
in the moment, it wasn't very cool that that happened at all. But that
No,
was
I'd
like,
be like, get me out. Yeah.
yeah, that was the last concrete thing that happened though, and then it just, as soon as it started, it just stopped, and I didn't know
Hmm.
why. I didn't know why. I don't know if it was just
Okay.
in the movement process
Mm-hmm.
that things were stirred up a little bit, and then once everything was
Wow.
settled, it was okay. But it was very strange. I will say, I never touched the boxes again.
Yeah. Yeah. Any tablets? Any cuneiforms?
I'm trying to think. There was a lot of like again carved and written like carved
Oh,
things carved out of wood, um,
that's
and like
crazy.
and then again they were such like especially like the jewelry and stuff like that. I like such personal things that I had no idea who owned them or where they came from.
Well, you don't know what they are too, so they could have straight
No.
up been idols from biblical times, right? Which that alone, that would be some really wacky stuff. Or, I mean, yeah, like you have no idea.
Yeah.
And compounding them against each other. Jeez.
They were in it looked like honestly, they looked like when you stack your Tupperware. That's what it looked like. I was like,
Wow.
this is probably not the best way to go about it, but I never had anything weird after that happen. It was just like
Okay.
a period of time where it just all happened at once, kind of a deal, and then it stopped.
Interesting. So it's like you're a tour guide, but you're also helping rearrange the museum. And then you continue to work there after all
Hmm.
this goes back to normal. And
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool job.
I loved it. I loved it. It was just that was the only period where I was like questioning my occupation a little bit.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Um, I think there is something to the whole thing where like you see something because you're
Hmm.
distracted or
Hmm.
because they think you're distracted. I think there's something there because so I used to work at a dry warehouse in
Hmm.
college, and we had these like motorized pallet jacks that we would drive around. It kind of felt like you're pod racing. That's the closest that I can experience, that I can, tell you. But
Mhm.
there's this one part where like it's in the far back corner of the dry, hot warehouse,
Mm.
and it's like you have like something you're wearing where it's like pick this headset. So you're
Mhm.
focusing on that, you're getting the box, you're stacking it up. Terrible job, sucked. But as I'm doing this, I'm going really, really fast. And I legit down there see something move really small. And to the point where like it bugged me for the rest of the day. And I was talking to my buddy on a break and I was like, out there in aisle 81, have you ever seen anything? And he's like, oh yeah, you saw that now.
Oh no.
And yeah, and he's like, yeah, you can tell how long a person's been here by the time it takes to see something out there. I was like, oh, this job sucks. I'm out of here. But like
We
that's wild.
we love pre-warnings, right?
Yeah. So right. Yeah. It could have
It
been
would be
nice if you
nice.
told me ahead of time. But uh potentially could have been a bird or a mouse,
Mhm.
but it was bigger than that. So I'm just gonna go with weird. Um yeah, so that's my weird story. But thank you for sharing that awesome ghosty Indiana Jones story. That's awesome. Um yeah.
I looked for every logical explanation to when those things happen.
Hmm.
I could find none to this day, and I just kind of again, you you kind of just push it away. You're like, okay, that happened, and file that away into the things that have happened in your life.
Yeah. No thanks. Oof, there's some creepy stuff. Creepy stuff. What's coming up next for you?
The next thing, so still revamp, still like working on the Instagram page,
Hmm.
checking out new content for the podcast. I just really want to do an episode on Chernobyl. Like that has been a fixation of mine since I was young. But talking about not just the history of Chernobyl, the legends and the conspiracy theories also tied to Chernobyl.
Tell me more.
There's a lot of interesting and even sometimes cryptid question mark related things
Mm,
to Chernobyl. And there's like stories of sightings of strange things before the reactor blew and then afterwards too,
okay.
cited by different people. And then there's just the town of like Pripyat itself that is just wasting away, a ghost town with everything still there, and it
Oof.
it looks terrifying as it is, but there's also rumors that like it's attracted some weird things there too.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of really interesting theories and stories about Chernobyl, which makes sense because it's like a dark tragic thing that happened. So it kind of like I feel like it those things like get attached to that kind of a deal. But
Yeah.
I just yeah, I recharged my interest in it recently and I was like, let's just do a podcast episode where we talk about
I love it.
Chernobyl and all the
Totally.
weird things that are to this day still attributed to this place that is
Mm-hmm.
almost completely off limits to us. Almost. Except you can kind of tour
Because
there.
it's in Russia,
Yeah. There's some
or
places that you can tour into, but there's like a certain point that you cannot
oh,
go
just for
past.
health reasons.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah, that
still
makes sense.
in insanely radioactive
Oh,
for the next, I think, several hundred years.
wow.
So
That's crazy. My
I'm
goodness.
really excited for it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really excited.
Unless you had something else you wanted to share, I have one more request.
Okay.
Can you share the story where your parents tell you about the weird stuff that happened to you as a kid that you can't recollect it yourself, right?
No, I could not. I was too young. I was way
Okay,
too
this
young.
is a good story. I read this on on a Strangeology's post because you sent it in, but I just wanted to hear you actually retell it. I think this is a good story.
So, it was a story that I was too young to remember
Mm-hmm.
when it happened. I think I was like 2 or 3 years old when it happened. And my mom told me later, like in my late teens, that this had happened. And I almost went my whole life without knowing that this ever happened to me
Oh
at
my
all.
goodness. Wow.
Um, but we had just moved from, my dad had just joined the military, so we had moved from Connecticut over to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And it was just me and my mom. My dad's off at basic training. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, like any only child at the time, I used to play a lot by myself, and my mom always said like I had a really big imagination, so it wasn't necessarily unusual when I popped out an imaginary friend
Right.
because I was an only child, so they just thought it was completely
Yeah.
normal.
Yeah.
She said that she would like see me like sitting and like talking to something and sitting and laughing at something or pointing at something,
Ooh.
and they went along with it at the beginning because they thought
Mhm.
it's just an imaginary friend. But she said that the only thing that like made her uncomfortable was like how I would describe this person in like very vivid detail to her as a
Yeah.
child.
Ooh.
um like I really like would say and point that my imaginary friend is here, and I
Two or
said that
three, like what the age?
mhm.
What the 2 or 3? Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
And I gave him a name. I said that his name was Bobby. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that's a name I don't know where I would have even picked that up from either. Because
Right.
we also only mainly spoke Spanish in my house at that time too.
Oh yeah, weird.
So that it just didn't
Totally.
make a lot of sense. But the only time that they began to get uncomfortable was when like we had a few instances where something happened in the house. Like this is one thing I
Oh.
can actually very vaguely recollect, and I just think it was because like the shock factor of it,
Okay. Yeah.
that we were sleeping one night, and that was one of the days my dad was back um, with us. And in the middle of the night, we had like this really, like the old school like entertainment systems, the surround sounds that had just they were back in the day, like with knobs that you turn them, kind of a deal. Um, we had that downstairs, and
Yeah, I know what you're talking. Yeah.
my dad was very proud of it.
Yeah. No, those are cool. Yep.
In the middle of the night, just the middle of the night, it went off full blast, like
Oh
as
wow.
loud as this thing could have possibly gone. And obviously that jolted everybody in my house awake. And my
Yeah.
parents
Totally.
thought somebody was breaking into the house or something, so they instantly went down. And there was nobody there. None of the doors were messed, none of the windows were messed with. Um, and apparently when I came down with them, they were like freaking out, like what's going on with this. And I had mentioned that was Bobby that had done that.
Hmm.
Which I'm sure made my mom and dad feel really good inside.
Yeah. No way. No.
So they were a bit on edge at this point. And then there was another instance where my dad was coming home again from training, and he noticed that his one of his pairs of boots was like right by the door, like kind of, he described it like, when you walk into a house and you take off your shoes and you leave them there, that
Yep.
it was just like that, except that he hadn't used that pair of boots, and those boots were actually stored in the downstairs, like under the stairway closet,
Oh
in a
no way.
box.
Oh geez. So
So
you would have had to get them out of the box from underneath the stairs as a
exactly.
2-year-old.
Yes, so there was no way I could have reached it,
Yeah. No.
and they were like
No way.
on the shelf up there, like in the box.
Yeah.
And my dad had asked my mom. My mom said she didn't move them. She didn't know why they were there. And out pops 2 to 3 year old Yami from the corner. And guess what she says? Who did that? So my parents were really, really freaked about it. But what they told me is that they just kind of like went with the flow. They just kind of like would,
Yep.
like, if I said, "Oh, Bobby's here," they would be like, "Hi, hello," and would just kind of flow with it, and nothing ever happened after that. Um,
Whoa.
my sister was born not too long after,
Okay.
and then we ended up moving anyhow, and nothing happened after that. But yeah, that was such a weird thing to find because again, I was so young. I didn't know that happened at all to
Yeah,
me.
totally.
And I'm very grateful that it stayed there, but then it piqued my curiosity when my mom told me the story, and I actually found out that there's a lot of reports of like weird strange occurrences on Fort Benning base because it's an
Really.
older military base, and those housings that we lived in,
Hmm.
those military families come in and out of housing,
Oh
in
yeah,
and out,
sure.
in and out.
Yeah.
So you don't know how many people have lived there, who lived there, kind of a deal. But yeah, apparently there's a few places on the base that to this day are still really strange and weird things happen, and it's just tied to
Wow.
the military base.
That is some creepy stuff.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah.
to never experience that one day in my life if I become a parent. Because I don't think I'm going to take it as chill as my parents did.
Yep. It's there's a lot of stuff you just gotta roll with it. But man, I don't know what I would do in that situation. Like I'd kind of be like, oh, that's weird, dude.
Yeah, my
That's
parents
weird.
we weren't like in church or anything at the time either, so they were
Mm-hmm.
really like soloing it how to react.
Oh yeah. Gotcha. Man. Oof. Well, hey, that was awesome. Thank you for sharing those two stories with us. That was very cool.
Thank you.
I would say that was a success. But um, as always, super big fan of your work, and you are definitely becoming better every episode. I love how you're starting to put production value in it with the music and stuff like that. So also the back and forth with your sister is awesome too.
She's a character. I pull her
Yeah,
in every now and then that I can.
she's funny stuff.
She enjoys it. She's the again, I'm the cryptid legend side, and she's the I'll embrace the paranormal side,
There you go.
and it works. It meshes well.
Yep. All right. Well, until we chat again, thanks again, Yami.
Bye, no problem. It was
Yep.
fun. Hopefully, I'll